Football fans sitting down for the NFL Thanksgiving game in 1989 had no idea what they were about to witness. We are talking cash for hits, unhinged fans, dirty tackles, and even a coach who nearly died. This is the story of the Bounty Bowl, the moment the Cowboys-Eagles rivalry turned into an all-out war, unfolding across 3 iconic games. But to understand why it's such an important series of games, we have to go back to 1987, when the NFL players went on strike. Most teams just stopped playing. Not Dallas. The Cowboys got some of their best players to keep playing with the replacement guys. Players like Danny White and Tony Dorsett. When Philadelphia's backup players came to Texas Stadium, Dallas destroyed them 41-22. Head coach Tom Landry even put his real players back in the game in the fourth quarter to keep beating them up. 2 weeks later, the strike was over. Philadelphia came back to Dallas for another game. With seconds left, the Eagles were winning 30-20. Game over, right? Nope.
No, sir. Run it up. Go to the end zone. Pass interference. One more play. So with the 30-20, sure, we'll take another, oh, by the way, touchdown.
With that, the final score was 37-20. But that touchdown wasn't about winning, it was about getting back at Dallas. Eagles head coach Buddy Ryan wanted everyone to know he didn't forget what happened during the strike. Then the kicker thing happened. Luis Zendejas was Philadelphia's kicker, but Ryan cut him in October 1989. Zendejas was mad. He thought Ryan should have told him to his face, so he started talking trash to reporters about how Buddy Ryan had no class. 3 weeks later, Dallas signed him. And this is where things got really ugly. November 23rd, 1989, Thanksgiving Day. America was getting ready for turkey and football, and CBS had the Philadelphia Eagles at the Dallas Cowboys lined up, with Pat Summerall and John Madden calling it from the booth.
Live from Texas Stadium in Irving, Texas, the Philadelphia Eagles, searching for a playoff spot, face the host Dallas Cowboys.
This should have been easy to predict. The Eagles were defending NFC East champs with one of the scariest defenses in football. The Cowboys, they were 1-10. New owner, new coaching regime, new everything. QB Troy Aikman was getting beat up every week. Jimmy Johnson, the coach brought in by new owner Jerry Jones to replace the legendary Tom Landry, looked like he was way over his head. But nobody saw what was coming at Texas Stadium. This game was absolutely crazy, with the madness starting in the first quarter already.
Now the whistle blows, they're stopping the thing. You don't get a free shot to come in and throw the quarterback down. That's what started it.
It's 54, it's Hager.
Well, Hager was the first guy that made the hit. I would say that Pitts probably did something in here. See 74 there? Probably something in that.
An all-out brawl as the Eagles used a false start as an opportunity to down Aikman. Multiple fights across the board, with Cowboys offensive lineman Gogan even going full boxing stance. Eagles defensive lineman Mike Pitts was ejected for throwing punches. Just pure madness. The Eagles seemed to thrive off of the violence. Randall Cunningham found Chris Carter for a 6-yard touchdown in the second quarter, and it was all downhill from there.
Run it or run it and throw it.
And he can do both. Touchdown to Carter.
A field goal made it 10-0 at halftime. The Cowboys couldn't do anything. Aikman only completed 7 of 21 passes for 54 yards and threw 3 picks. He just couldn't get anything going out there. The offensive line was getting pushed around, and Dallas only got 194 total yards the whole game. In the third quarter, the Eagles kept beating them up. Cunningham hit Carter again for 18 yards.
Cunningham. Another spectacular catch by Chris Carter in the end zone. And it's a touchdown.
Then Keith Byers ran it in from 1 yard out, making it 24-0.
Byers and Tony behind Cunningham. Byers. And he's in.
This was turning into a beatdown on national TV. But the real story of the game happened on a kick return. The broadcast didn't catch it, but Jesse Small, this rookie linebacker from Eastern Kentucky, came flying down the field like a rocket. Who was he going after? Luis Zendejas, the former Eagles kicker who'd been talking trash about Buddy Ryan. Small completely destroyed him. Zendejas went down hard and got up so groggy he walked to the wrong sideline.
So long a fixture here now. Plays on special teams. Zendejas is down.
I think he got knocked out. He's going to the wrong sideline. He's groggy.
Well, he was with the Eagles, you know.
You know, most times if a kicker kicks off and doesn't really run down to make the tackle, they don't block him. The Eagles sent someone after Zendejas.
Now, back in 1989, big hits happened all the time. Guys got knocked out every week. But this was different. This felt personal. This felt like revenge. Buddy Ryan was not one to forget how Dallas ran up the score in '87. It didn't matter that this was a completely different team. He was out for blood, and Ryan was still quite fiery for this age. The game was getting ugly in other ways too. Fights kept breaking out. Players were yelling at each other. The refs couldn't control anything. When it was over, the score was 27-0. The Eagles beat Dallas in every way possible. First downs, total yards, everything. It was the worst Thanksgiving loss in Cowboys history. So, the drama began. Jimmy Johnson walked into that post-game press conference looking like someone had just punched him in the face. He was mad. Really mad.
Winning and losing the ball game, of course, concerns me. What concerns me more than anything else is when you take away from the integrity.
But then he said something that made this game famous forever.
I mean, having bounties on opposing players is not the way it's supposed to be done. We were told last night by a coach, and it was confirmed by two different players. There's a $200 bounty on Luis Zendejas, a $500 bounty on Troy Aikman.
So this was massive. Bounties in the NFL, coaches paying players to hurt other guys? The reporters went nuts. When they asked Buddy Ryan about it, he did exactly what you'd expect. He laughed. Actually laughed out loud. Then he started making fun of Jimmy Johnson for calling him fat.
I would have said something to Buddy, but he wouldn't stand on the field long enough. He put his big fat rear end into the dressing room.
Johnson, the coach, was making all kinds of excuses for not preparing his team well to play us.
Ryan said the whole thing was stupid. If anything, he wanted Zendejas to stay in the game because the guy was missing kicks left and right. But the story kept getting bigger. 3 days later, Zendejas went to NFL security with his own crazy story. He said 4 or 5 Eagles players had either warned him before the game or told him afterward that the bounties were real. Zendejas said he had proof, recorded phone calls, inside stuff. He was ready to tell them everything. Then another former Cowboys player, Junior Tatalatasi, came out and backed up Zendejas. He had stories about bounties from other years. The whole thing was getting out of control. The NFL had to look into it. They spent 2 weeks checking everything, talking to players, coaches, everyone, looking for any proof that bounties were real. And when it was all said and done, well, they didn't find enough to prove anything. The Eagles were cleared. The bounty story couldn't be proven. Even so, the Cowboys weren't going to forget this beating. Getting shut out on Thanksgiving, having their players targeted, getting called weak, Jimmy Johnson was already thinking about payback. But Buddy Ryan and the Eagles weren't finished with Dallas yet. Not even close. Because 2 weeks after the first Bounty Bowl, the Eagles and Cowboys were about to play again at Veterans Stadium in Philadelphia. Except the weather had other ideas. A huge snowstorm hit Philadelphia the night before the game. Several inches of fresh snow covered the stadium and all the seats. For most games, this would just mean cold weather and slippery grass. For Eagles Cowboys, with all the bounty drama still going on, this was like giving weapons to a really angry crowd.
The fans had waited more than 2.5 weeks for this game, and granted, to say they were excited is probably an understatement, but some of these people got downright out of control today. One security guard, not the one blocking here for me, told me that this place was like Beirut today.
They left because they were getting barraged with snowballs.
CBS Sports knew exactly what they were doing. Instead of trying to calm things down, they made it worse. The network made a pregame show that basically promoted fighting. They had wanted posters with Cowboys and Eagles players' faces on them. Bounty amounts right there on the screen.
In Bounty Bowl 2, it has attracted the sign painters.
NFL Commissioner Paul Tagliabue was even there, watching from the owner's box. The league's top guy wanted to see what would happen. Right from the start, you could tell the snow was going to be trouble, but not the way you'd think. The field was fine to play on, but the real problem was in the stands. Eagles fans turned the game into a full-on snowball fight, and not the fun kind. Those Philly fans were packing ice inside the snow. The obvious targets were Jimmy Johnson and his coaches. Every time they got near the sideline, ice balls came flying down from the upper deck. But it got way worse than that. But no one was really safe. That included the CBS broadcast booth. Vern Lundquist and Terry Bradshaw were supposed to be calling the game, but they spent half the time dodging ice balls.
We're back at Veterans Stadium, which has become a snow palace. Here's an example of what just came flying into our booth. Right over my head. And
at one point, Lundquist went on air and basically said that getting dental work was more fun than calling a game in Philadelphia. And you can't really blame him. Not even the refs were safe.
Right, Al Jury was apparently hit on the back of the head with a snowball. And you see him now laughing and putting on a helmet.
They offered him a helmet, but he got KO'd right in the back of the head and floored him right in the end zone.
On top of that, even the future Pennsylvania governor, Ed Rendell, was at this game. He was sitting with a bunch of drunk Eagles fans when the snowball throwing started. Rendell made a bet with some guy next to him. $20 that the fan couldn't reach the field with a snowball. The guy took the bet, threw one down from way up high, and hit the back judge right in the feet. Rendell paid up. The future governor of Pennsylvania literally paid a fan to throw stuff at NFL refs on national TV. During a game the NFL commissioner was watching. When reporters asked Rendell about it later, he tried to say it didn't happen at first. Then he felt bad and called back an hour later to admit it. He said it was stupid and he shouldn't have done it. The fan behavior was so crazy that even Eagles players weren't safe. Jerome Brown, the team's beloved defensive tackle, was standing on the sideline trying to calm down the crowd. He was telling fans to stop throwing things. Of course, it was way worse for the Cowboys themselves. Punter Mike Saxon was getting destroyed every time he went back to punt. The guy was just trying to do his job, but ice balls were flying at him from everywhere. But even with all this crazy stuff happening, there was still a football game going on. The Cowboys, and none other than the kicker, Luis Zendejas, the catalyst for Bounty Bowl 1, had the opportunity to draw first blood. Tape across the ear holes of his helmet in a hopeless attempt to block out the Philly fans, Zendejas lined up for some sort of redemption. Eagles fans went ballistic with the miss. This clearly wasn't going to be a redemption arc for the boys or Zendejas, as the Eagles would jump out to another big lead. Chris Carter scored 2 touchdowns in the second quarter, including this big-time grab on a fake field goal.
That's what I don't know how far. Fake into the end zone. Caught. Matt Cavanaugh threw it.
The Cowboys got a field goal to make it 14-3. Then the Eagles kicked one to go up 17-3 at halftime and got another field goal in the third quarter. Fights kept breaking out.
And here we go again. Fisticuffs that are broken out. David Howard is a part of it.
Troy Aikman finally got the Cowboys in the end zone in the fourth quarter. He found Darryl Johnston for an 18-yard touchdown pass.
Second down and 10. Back split, play action. Aikman, Johnson, got a clear path, touchdown Dallas.
Great call.
But it was too late. Final score, Eagles 20, Cowboys 10. As the Cowboys were trying to leave the field, things got even more dangerous. Fans were dumping snow, ice, and beer on the players and coaches.
Dallas Cowboys on their way to the locker room couldn't hang their heads if they wanted to. They were too busy looking skyward.
Police officers who were supposed to be protecting Jimmy Johnson got hit in the face with snowballs and needed medical help. And when it was all said and done, more than 100 fans got kicked out of the stadium. Eagles owner Norman Brayman was furious. He made a decision that shocked everyone in the NFL. He banned all beer sales at Veterans Stadium, and not just for the rest of the season, but for all playoff games too. Almost 70 fans who got kicked out also lost their season tickets forever. In a city where Eagles season tickets were like gold, that was a huge punishment. One security guard told local TV that Veterans Stadium was like a war zone that day. He wasn't kidding. Officials getting knocked down, broadcasters getting attacked, police officers getting hurt. It was total chaos. A game where fans attacked everyone connected to the visiting team, including refs and TV people. CBS had their announcers hiding on live television. The bounty stuff from 2 weeks earlier had created this crazy situation where anything seemed okay. But somehow, things were about to get even weirder. When the next season came round, the week before the Cowboys-Eagles game, Buddy Ryan went out to eat with his offensive coordinator Ted Plum. They're having dinner, probably talking about football, when Ryan starts choking on a pork chop. This is Buddy Ryan we're talking about. The guy who made his name being the toughest coach in the NFL. The man who turned the Eagles' defense into killers. And he almost died choking on his dinner. Plum had to jump up and save Ryan's life, pulling out the Heimlich right there in the restaurant. Without his offensive coordinator, Buddy Ryan might have been taken out by a piece of meat. You can't make this stuff up. And of course, the media went crazy with it. They started calling the next game the Pork Chop Bowl. Ryan missed practice that week because of what happened. The whole thing turned into a big joke. But when game time came, Ryan was back on the sideline. One last fight with the Cowboys. One more chance to beat Jimmy Johnson. This game was way closer than the other two. The Cowboys were starting to get better. They had this rookie running back named Emmitt Smith who looked like he might be special. Troy Aikman was improving every week. Smith ran for 52 yards and a touchdown. Aikman threw for 233 yards and actually looked like a real NFL quarterback, unlike that rookie year. The Cowboys were growing up, but Philadelphia still had enough fight left. Randall Cunningham threw for 183 yards and 2 touchdowns. The Eagles won 21-20. Just 1 point between them, but it was another win over Dallas. Cowboys fans got their payback in the stands though. They threw pork chops at the Eagles bench all game long. Raw pork chops, cooked pork chops, whatever kind of pork chops they could find. After the season, the Eagles fired Buddy Ryan. The guy who started this whole mess was gone. The bounty stuff, the snowball wars, the pork chop thing, it all finally caught up with him. But the Cowboys weren't done using those bad losses to get better. They were just getting started. America's team took those embarrassing losses and used them as fuel. Jimmy Johnson kept reminding his players about getting shut out on Thanksgiving, about getting hit with snowballs in Philadelphia, about everyone calling them weak. By 1991, Dallas had Emmitt Smith hitting his stride. Troy Aikman was turning into a real franchise quarterback. Michael Irvin was one of the best receivers in the game. Everything was coming together. In 1992, just 3 years after going 1-15, the Cowboys won Super Bowl 27. They crushed Buffalo 52-17, and it wasn't even close. Johnson had built a championship team from those terrible Bounty Bowl beatdowns. They won it again in 1993, then again in 1995 under Barry Switzer. 3 titles in 4 years. The Cowboys went from being the league's biggest joke to America's team again. After the Eagles fired Buddy Ryan, they went through 2 coaches before landing on Andy Reid and having that long period of success. But they wouldn't be able to win the Super Bowl until 2017. The NFL also started taking fan behavior way more seriously. The Veterans Stadium snowball thing was a wake-up call. Teams started using better security. They made stricter rules about alcohol. The league realized they couldn't let things get as crazy as they did in Philadelphia. These days, the Cowboys and Eagles still can't stand each other. Dak Prescott versus Jalen Hurts has brought new life to the rivalry, but it's nothing like it used to be back in the day. There was pure hate between Buddy Ryan and Jimmy Johnson. That rivalry was personal in a way you almost never see in modern sports. That was the story of the Bounty Bowl in an era that made 1980s football amazing and terrible at the same time. They sure don't make rivalries like that anymore. But if you really want to see the most brutal game in NFL history, you're gonna love this video here.